Hello, Sober Army. How are you? This is Craig Beck, the author of Alcohol Lied to Me, a best-selling book that has helped hundreds of thousands of people just like you to quit drinking easily, without gimmicks, without willpower, without medication, without embarrassing group meetings, with common sense and logic. That's how it works. And if you want a copy, I'm not shilling. Just go and get a free copy from the website, stopdrinkingexpert.com. All right. My goal here today is to see how far into this episode of the Happy Sober podcast I can get without sniffing. I haven't got a cold. I have every now and again a little bit of an allergy flare up. I think I might be a little bit allergic to dust, and I live in a very dusty country. Last couple of days, I don't know what's going on, but I'm up to here with antihistamines. So today I wanted to talk about the interesting concept of counting days, counting the days of your sobriety. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it against the rules of my approach? And the reason we're talking about it is because Lana has emailed me. And she says, "Hi, Craig. I just want to know what your view on counting days is. Do you do it? Did you do it? Or is it giving too much power to alcohol? Maybe a good idea for a video. Kind regards, Lana." It is a good idea for a video. So let's talk about it. First of all, there are no rules really, because I'm one of those people that if you see a sign on the wall that says wet paint don't touch, I'll touch it. A, because I'm inquisitive and I want to know if it's still wet. And B, nobody tells me not to touch a wall. It's that kind of inbuilt anarchy that I've got. So rules for me are a bit of a no-no. And you've got to bear in mind this whole approach to quitting drinking. I never set out to create a method for people to deal with alcohol problems. I set out to fix my own problem. And in fact, every book I've ever written is about me fixing me first and then going, hey, other people might be able to use the same thing. So it would be a little bit illogical of me to come up with a system that has lots of rules in place, because I tend to break rules, even if they're detrimental. Even if breaking the rule is detrimental to myself, it doesn't make any sense. It's like when I go on a diet, one of the first things I do is defy myself. Who's telling me I can't eat that? You are, Craig. Well, I'm not having it. It is quite psychotic and insane, but that's just me. So there are not really any rules to break, Lana. So what's my thoughts on it? I think you kind of nailed it in your summary there. Is it giving too much power to alcohol? I think it probably is. If we just delve into the psychology of this and you think about what you're doing, you're counting the days that you've managed to survive without doing the thing that you know is killing you. It kind of implies that you're missing out on something, doesn't it? And, drinkers very precise in this area, generally, especially if people have quit drinking using willpower or AA or something like that. I mean, AA particularly, they even give you medallions in AA, don't they? You do 60 days free. They give you a little medallion. You do a year free, you get another one. 2 years free, you get another one. So they love the counting of days in AA. And if you ask a problem drinker, when did you last drink? They'll tell you to the minute. 67 days and 4 hours ago, Craig. That's when I last had a drink. And it kind of implies that every minute has been arduous. Every minute has been a white knuckle ride of, I'm not sure I'm going to make it to the next minute. And, thoughts have power. Thoughts are things, as the saying goes. And if you say to yourself enough, boy, I miss alcohol. Boy, I miss alcohol. Boy, I miss alcohol. It becomes the reality, doesn't it? And you start to program yourself with this erroneous code. So look, if you want to count days, count days. Who cares? It's not such a big deal. I'm not going to jump up and down and scream at you and say, well, you're completely messing it up. If you want to count the days, it doesn't really matter. But if you want to give yourself the absolute best chance of making this stick, then you got to pay attention to the little stuff. You've got to drill down into the psychology of what you're doing. And, the way I like to describe it is this. If you'd been serving a prison term, let's say you've been in jail for 10 years, you would count down the days, wouldn't you? You'd say that's 1 day done, 2 days done, right? That's 3,000 days done. You'd chalk it off on the cell wall with the 5-bar gate system, wouldn't you? And as you were approaching the end of your sentence, you'd count up 5 days to go, 4 days to go, 3 days to go, 2 days to go, and then you'd get out. But I'm willing to bet the moment you got out of jail, you wouldn't start counting your days of freedom. You wouldn't be like 1 day of freedom, 2 days of freedom, 3 days of freedom. Why? Because you're just free. You don't need to log it. Recording the duration of your freedom doesn't add to the pleasure of it. You're free. You don't need to do that. There's nothing that's holding you back anymore. Why log it? So to log the days of your freedom from alcohol feels kind of like the same thing. You got out of jail and you're there scratching down the days of freedom. Stop it. Just live your life. Just enjoy your sobriety. And that's why I think it's not a great idea to do it, Lana. Just because the psychology of it is a bit twisted and feels a bit wrong. It's not a disaster, but it kind of hints that your mentality is still lingering in the past. There's still a bit of you that misses that. And you got to get that out of your head. You got to commit 100% to this. And you got to enjoy it 100%. And I've said this many times. It's one of my favorite sayings. This process is not about quitting drinking. It's not about giving up alcohol, because to forfeit something, to give up something implies a loss, implies that you will grieve it. This process is not about quitting drinking. It is about falling in love with sobriety. Not about quitting drinking, about falling in love with sobriety. And that's a really important distinction. Sounds like the same thing, but it's not. It's very different, all right? And I don't think you can live a life full of joy, happiness, peace, and purpose as a sober person if every day you're chalking it off on the cell wall. That's 15 days sober, 16 days sober. Doesn't make sense to me. So I hope that helps, Lana. If you have any questions about quitting drinking, whether you should do it, whether you shouldn't, how you stay sober in the long term, anything like that, any obstacles in your way that you think are preventing you getting started, just email me via the website, stopdrinkingexpert.com. Thanks a lot. See you in the next episode.